shut up or we kill your mother.
Say one word, and your mother is finished. That's what he whispered when he caught me watching them switch the contracts. He thought I was a stupid housekeeper's daughter. He thought fear would keep me quiet. But an hour later, standing in front of the billionaire, his eyes tired, trusting, unaware, I couldn't stop shaking. Because the folder in his hand wasn't the one he thought he was signing. And if he signed it, he would lose his company, his legacy, his entire life's work. Sir, I whispered, my voice cracking. They lied to you. And I don't know how to say this, but I saw everything. Sir, I whispered, my voice cracking. They lied to you. And I don't know how to say this, but I saw everything. The words hung in the air between us, trembling, fragile, dangerous. Mr. Lawson, Ethan Lawson, slowly lowered the fountain pen in his hand. For a moment he didn't speak. He didn't even breathe. His eyes, usually calm and unreadable, flicked to the folder on the table. Then to the one clutched against my chest like a shield. Then back to me. Emma, he said softly, start from the beginning. But how was I supposed to start? How was I supposed to explain that the only reason I was even on that floor of the mansion was because the door to the linen room snapped shut behind me, and I panicked and went searching for another way out? How was I supposed to explain the way the entire room froze the moment they saw me standing there? Or that one of them had leaned close enough for me to feel his breath when he hissed, say one word, and your mother is finished. Instead, I just tightened my hold on the folder. My hands were shaking so badly I thought I might drop it. I didn't mean to see anything, I whispered. I wasn't trying to spy or eavesdrop. I was just looking for the back staircase because the door locked behind me. And then I saw them with your contract and… Who? His voice sharpened instantly. Who was in the room? I swallowed. The two men from earlier. The ones in the navy suits. They had your merger contract out. They switched it for this. I lifted the real folder slightly. Ethan exhaled, slow and heavy, like something inside him had just cracked. For months I'd seen him in the mansion, quiet, efficient, too busy to breathe, constantly surrounded by people who called him sir and pretended to love him. But in that moment, with the weight of betrayal pressing on him, he didn't look like the billionaire everyone feared and admired. He looked human, hurt, tired, alone. Emma, his voice dropped softer now. Come with me. My stomach tightened. Are we safe here? No, he said simply. We're not. He didn't waste another second. He grabbed the switched folder off his desk and motioned for me to follow. I stayed close behind as he moved quickly through the mansion. Down the hall, past the portraits, past the huge staircase where the marble floor reflected our footsteps back at us like whispers. Every shadow felt alive. Every creak sounded like someone following us. Every breath felt too loud. Ethan led us into a smaller room off the study, one I'd never seen before. It looked like a private library, but the moment he closed the door, a soft click echoed. He'd locked it. He turned to me, jaw tight, eyes burning with a seriousness I'd never seen in anyone before. Emma, he said, I need you to tell me everything exactly as it happened. Don't leave anything out. So I did. The words spilled out, fast, shaky, desperate. I told him about walking into the study by accident, about seeing the men switch the folders, about the envelope they slid underneath, about the way they froze when they spotted me. And the threat. Especially the threat. When I reached that part, his expression changed. Subtle but sharp. A tightening around the eyes. A flicker of something dark and protective. They threatened your mother? He asked quietly. I nodded. His jaw clenched. Then this is worse than I thought. My heart thudded painfully. I'd only meant to warn him of the switch. I hadn't expected any of this. The locked room, his fear, the way his world suddenly seemed to tilt. Sir, I whispered carefully, what's happening? Why would someone switch your contract? What's in it? He didn't answer at first. He walked to the desk in the room, opened the switched folder and skimmed the pages. His fingers tightened around the paper. This isn't a contract, he muttered. It's a trap. He flipped another page, harsher this time. If I had signed this, his voice cracked almost imperceptibly. This document assigns my shares to an anonymous partner. It removes me from board control. It authorizes actions I never agreed to. Emma. Someone is trying to take my company. But who? I asked. He lifted his eyes to me. That's what scares me, he said. I know exactly who. I just didn't think he'd stoop this low. My stomach twisted. Do you mean someone close to you? Very close. I didn't know what to say. What could I say to a billionaire who just learned someone he trusted wanted to ruin him? But he kept reading faster, angrier, each page revealing a deeper layer of betrayal. When he finally closed the fake folder, he looked at me with a seriousness that made my breath catch. Emma, he said, you didn't just witness something illegal. You witnessed something that could bring down an entire corporation. People get desperate when they're losing power. They get dangerous. A chill ran down my spine. Are they still in the house? I whispered. Yes. He checked his watch. And they're expecting me to sign that fake contract in 7 minutes. 7, sir, you can't go back down there. I have to, he said firmly. If I avoid them, they'll know I'm onto them. And if they know that, he exhaled, they'll come after the evidence. And you. My throat tightened. So what do we do? For now, he said, stepping closer, lowering his voice, you stay hidden. Safe. Out of sight. But my mother. Emma. He looked straight into my eyes. I will protect her. I will protect both of you. But I need you to trust me. For a moment, neither of us moved. He was the billionaire with the world at his feet. I was the housekeeper's daughter who wasn't supposed to be involved in any of this. But right then, none of that mattered. Because the only thing standing between him and total destruction was the truth I held in my shaking hands. He walked toward the door, paused, then looked back one last time. Whatever happens, he said quietly, don't open this door unless it's me. And then he left, leaving me alone with the real contract and the terrifying knowledge that a billionaire's fate was resting on a girl no one was supposed to notice. The moment Ethan left the room, the silence swallowed me whole. I pressed my ear against the door, listening, hoping, praying that I wouldn't hear footsteps coming back toward me. For a few seconds, all I caught was the faint hum of the mansion's ventilation and the distant clinking of glasses from the main hall. Then voices. Low. Male. Sharp. I stepped back from the door instantly, clutching the real contract like it was the only thing keeping me alive. 'Cause maybe it was. I had no idea what Ethan was walking into. Only that he was walking straight toward the men who had just tried to steal his company and threaten my family. Minutes passed like hours. I sat on the edge of a leather chair, legs bouncing uncontrollably. The room felt too small, the air too warm, my heartbeat too loud. I kept imagining the worst. What if they realized the folder in his hand wasn't the one they switched? What if they searched the study? What if they checked the hallway cameras? What if they came looking for the girl who saw too much? I shook my head and pressed my palms against my eyes. I had to stop thinking like that. Ethan said he would protect me. He said he would protect my mother. But he didn't know how dangerous those men really were. I did. I'd seen it in their eyes. They weren't scared of consequences. They were scared of being caught. And I was the catch. A soft noise outside the door made me jump. A shuffle of fabric. A whisper. My breath caught as a shadow passed across the crack at the bottom of the door. Someone was outside. I pressed my hand over my mouth, afraid my breathing would give me away. I stayed perfectly still, barely letting myself blink. Then, the doorknob twitched. My entire body froze. It turned gently, slowly, deliberately. Not like someone passing by. Like someone testing the lock. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard it hurt. I backed away from the door step by step, gripping the contract folder like a weapon even though it was made of paper. The knob turned again, then stopped. A few seconds passed, silence thick enough to choke on. Then footsteps. Quiet ones. Retreating. Leaving. I sagged into the nearest wall, exhaling shakily. My entire body felt like it was vibrating. Whoever that was, they had been checking rooms. Looking for someone. Looking for me. And Ethan wasn't back yet. I paced the library now, unable to sit, unable to think straight. I needed to know what was happening. I needed to know he was okay. But Ethan told me to stay hidden. He told me not to open the door. I couldn't put him at risk by disobeying. I paced for what felt like forever until finally, I heard a firm, familiar knock. Emma. His voice called quietly. It's me. The relief that hit me was so overwhelming I nearly dropped the folder in my hands. I rushed to unlock the door, but the second it cracked open, Ethan stepped inside and shut it quickly behind him, locking it again. His expression was tight, controlled, but there was something else there too. Something dark simmering beneath the surface. Anger, betrayal, and something that looked a lot like fear. Are you okay? I whispered. He nodded, though I didn't completely believe him. Yes. For now. What happened downstairs? He ran a hand through his hair, breathing hard. They pushed me to sign. Harder than usual. Both of them. They kept insisting I was late, that the board was waiting, that my hesitation was wasting time. They wanted that signature badly. My stomach twisted. Did they realize anything? No, his jaw tightened. I played along. Told them I needed a few final minutes to look over the contract again. They didn't like it, but they didn't stop me. So what now? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked over to the table, placed the fake contract beside the real one, and opened them both side by side. He stared at the pages, flipping through them like he was searching for something he already knew he'd find. The same people who pretended to support me, he said quietly. The same people who sat in my home and ate my food and acted like my loyalty meant something. They're the ones orchestrating this. His voice cracked again, the faintest fracture. I knew there were board members unhappy with my decisions, but I didn't know they would go this far. I stepped closer. Sir, what will they do if you don't sign? He closed both folders and looked at me. That's what worries me. They expected this to work today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. His eyes were cold now. Sharp. Calculating. Which means they have a backup plan already in motion. A chill ran down my arms. What kind of backup plan? To frame me. Remove me. Force me out one way or another. He rubbed the bridge of his nose, exhausted in a way I'd never seen. It's not just corporate. This is personal. I hesitated. Ethan. Do you know who is leading it? He exhaled through his teeth. My cousin. I blinked. Your cousin? The one who thinks he should have inherited everything. He finished for me. The one who's been looking for a way to take control for years. My heart dropped. So he's the one who threatened me? Threatened my mother. Ethan's entire posture changed. He straightened. Shoulders firm. Eyes cold. No, he said. He may be behind the coup. But he doesn't threaten innocent people. He lifted his gaze, jaw set. The men who threatened you weren't family. They weren't even board members. Then who were they? He held my eyes. Hired fixers, he said quietly. The kind of men you call when you want something done off the books. My throat tightened. Ethan, they tried to open this door. He froze. What? I heard them, I whispered. Someone tried to turn the knob. They were checking rooms. He was across the room in 2 steps. His hand cupped the doorknob, jaw flexing, breath sharp. They know you're missing, he muttered. Which means they'll search the entire house. I swallowed. What do we do? He turned toward me, and for the first time tonight he didn't look calm, or collected, or in control. He looked scared. We get you out, he said. Now. Ethan didn't waste another second. He crossed the room, grabbed his phone and typed something fast, too fast for me to read, then slipped it into his pocket. Come on, he said. We don't have much time. I hesitated only a moment before following him. My legs felt stiff, like fear had wrapped itself around my ankles, but I forced myself forward anyway. He unlocked the library door slowly, carefully listening. Then he cracked it open and peeked into the hallway. Dark. Empty. Too empty. He motioned for me to stay close. We stepped out quietly. His mansion was always quiet. He lived alone most days, but tonight felt wrong. Like someone had turned the silence into a weapon. We moved quickly down the hall, sticking to the shadows. Then, footsteps. Fast. Heavy. Coming from the staircase. Ethan grabbed my wrist and pulled me into an alcove behind a tall plant. I pressed myself into the wall, breath trapped in my throat. The footsteps grew louder. I could see shadows stretching across the hallway floor. Then 2 men appeared. Not in suits this time. Dressed in all black. Their faces were harsh, expressionless. Not guests. Not staff. Not friendly. One of them spoke in a low voice. Check the east wing again. Boss says the girl didn't leave the house. My stomach dropped so fast I almost lost my balance. Ethan squeezed my wrist gently, grounding me, staring straight ahead with fire in his eyes. The men turned down another corridor. We didn't move until the sound of their footsteps faded into nothing. Ethan exhaled slowly. They're not giving up. What do we do now? I whispered. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled out his phone again and typed something short. Then he turned to me. Security is coming, he said. My real security. Not the ones my cousin replaced. How long? A few minutes. We just have to stay hidden until they arrive. I nodded, though every part of me was trembling. We started moving again, staying close to the walls, passing portraits and marble columns and the faint glow of wall sconces. But the mansion felt like a maze now. Every turn looked suspicious. Every shadow felt alive. We reached a side hallway near the kitchen when Ethan suddenly stopped. I nearly bumped into him. What is it? I whispered. He pointed toward the floor. A tiny red dot hovered across the marble tile. A laser. My blood froze. They had more than just men checking rooms. They had scanning equipment. They're sweeping the hallways, Ethan murmured. We can't keep walking through open areas. He led me toward a narrow doorway hidden between two cabinets. It looked like a pantry entrance, small and unimportant. Except it wasn't. He pushed the door open, revealing a narrow staircase. The service stairs? I asked. Yes. These lead down to the lower level. It's safer there. Safer sounded like heaven. We went down the steps quickly, our footsteps barely making a sound. The door shut behind us, muffling the noise of the house above. But that didn't stop my heart from pounding. Halfway down the stairs, Ethan spoke, quietly, but with a tension I'd never heard from him before. You shouldn't be in this situation. It's not your fault. It is. His voice tightened. This started because they're after me. And now they're dragging you into the crossfire. I'm not letting them hurt my mother, I whispered. He glanced back at me. No, he said. I won't let that happen. Not to her. Not to you. We reached the bottom of the stairs and stepped into a dim room filled with cleaning supplies and industrial washers. The air smelled like detergent, familiar and strangely comforting. For now, stay here, he said. Lock the door behind me. What about you? I'll be right outside the doorway monitoring the cameras, he said. If anyone comes down, I'll get you out the back entrance. But what if? He shook his head. Emma, listen. I need you safe. He was already stepping backward toward the door, ready to leave. Ethan, wait. He paused. And I don't know why. Maybe it was fear or panic or everything happening too fast. But I grabbed his sleeve before I could stop myself. He looked down at my hand, then up at me. His expression softened, just barely. You saved my company, he said quietly. You stepped into something dangerous to protect me. I won't forget that. My throat tightened. My words came out barely audible. You saved me too. His eyes flickered, something deep, unreadable, before he turned and stepped out of the room. The door shut behind him with a soft click. I locked it immediately. Then I turned around and pressed my back against the door, trying to breathe, trying to think. The room was small, windowless, lit by a single overhead bulb. I hugged the contract folders to my chest and slid down to the floor. Minutes crawled by. Then something buzzed. My phone. I nearly dropped it from shock. A text from an unknown number appeared. Where are you hiding, sweetheart? My heart stopped. Another message followed immediately. You can run, but you can't leave the house. My hands shook violently. They had my number. They had access to staff records. They knew exactly who I was. I stood up quickly and knocked on the door. Ethan. But before he could answer, the light in the room flickered, then went dark. Completely. I swallowed a scream. Something or someone had cut the power to the lower level. My phone buzzed again. Found you. And then, a slow, deliberate knock came from the other side of the door. But it wasn't Ethan. It wasn't even close. The knock was too heavy, too slow, too calm. Someone else was out there. Emma, a man's voice said. Deep, rough, Cold. Open the door. I backed away until my spine hit the metal shelves behind me. Open it or I will. The doorknob rattled. Locked. But not for long. Footsteps appeared suddenly, running. I heard a familiar voice shout, "Get away from that door." Then chaos. A thud. A shout. A struggle. My pulse hammered in my ears. Then, silence. For a moment I couldn't breathe. Then Ethan's voice came through, breathless but steady. "It's me. Open up." I unlocked the door in an instant. He stood there, chest rising and falling, hair slightly messed, jaw tense with fury. There was no trace of the calm CO now. He looked dangerous. He looked like someone who would burn the world down before letting anything happen to me. "We're not hiding anymore," he said. "We're leaving this house." "How?" "The men. Security is here," he said. "The real team. My team." He grabbed my hand. Not roughly. Not hurriedly. Firmly. Like letting go wasn't an option. "Stay with me," he said. "I'm getting you out of this." And for the first time since this nightmare started, I felt something stronger than fear. I felt safe. Ethan didn't let go of my hand. Not even for a second. We moved fast, retracing our steps up the service hallway until we reached a narrow maintenance corridor. The power was still out in this part of the house. The only light came from a small flashlight app on Ethan's phone. "Stay close," he whispered. I already was. My heartbeat felt like it was echoing off the concrete walls as we pushed forward. The mansion above us was alive with noise now, shouting, footsteps, doors slamming. Whatever his real security team was doing, it was big. And loud. "Are they fighting?" I whispered. "Not exactly," he said. "They're detaining people. Removing the men my cousin planted. They'll keep things controlled." But even he didn't sound convinced. We reached a service elevator at the end of the hall. He pressed the call button but nothing happened. The power. He muttered under his breath and pulled me toward the emergency stairwell instead. As soon as he opened the door, a rush of cold air hit us, carrying the faint echo of distant voices. "They're still inside," he murmured. I swallowed hard. "Will your cousin be here?" "No. He wouldn't get his hands dirty. He sends others to do it for him." We started up the stairs quietly. The metal steps vibrated with the weight of our movements, and every creak made me flinch. Halfway up my foot slipped, but Ethan caught my arm instantly. "Careful," he whispered. "Sorry," I breathed. "You don't have to be. You're doing everything right." Somehow, even in the middle of all this chaos, he still sounded steady, reassuring, like he needed me to trust him more than he needed to breathe. We reached the first floor and paused behind the stairwell door. Ethan cracked it open an inch. I peeked through the gap beside him. 2 guards, real ones, stood in the corridor. Their uniforms had a different crest than the fake guards earlier. Their posture was alert but not aggressive, heads turning, radios clipped to their shoulders. "They're with me," Ethan whispered. "We'll go to them." He opened the door fully. The guards spotted us instantly. "Sir," one of them called. "We've secured the west wing. Backup is sweeping the south hall." "Good," Ethan said. "We're leaving through the garage. Is it clear?" "Mostly, sir," the guard replied. "We're still checking one of the exits." Ethan nodded and guided me forward. For a moment, everything seemed like it was finally under control, like we were going to make it out. Then a voice shouted from somewhere behind us. "Stop them!" My heart lurched. The guards immediately positioned themselves in front of us, blocking my view. One drew a baton. The other unholstered a stun device. "Get her out," Ethan said. "I'll follow." "No," I whispered, grabbing his sleeve. "Don't leave." He shook his head. "I'm right behind you. Go." One guard gently took my arm, ushering me down the hall. I kept looking back even as I was pushed forward. Ethan stood his ground, eyes fixed on the approaching silhouettes. 3 of the men in black, moving fast. He wasn't scared. He was furious. I wanted to scream to run back to him, but the guard held me firmly. "This way, miss." We turned the corner and reached a door leading into the garage hallway. The overhead lights flickered back on. Someone had restored partial power. The guard pushed the door open and froze. Standing in front of us was the man who had knocked on the supply room door earlier. The one with the cold voice. The one who said he'd found me. He smiled when he saw me, like he'd been waiting. Well, he said softly. There you are. Before I could react, the guard stepped in front of me. Stay behind me, he ordered. The man in black tilted his head slightly, eyes locked on me as he reached into his jacket. The guard tensed. Don't, he warned. I'm not here to fight, the man said. The girl comes with me. That's it. I shook my head instantly. No, I'm not going anywhere with you. He sighed. Sweetheart, I wasn't asking. Behind him, more of Ethan's real security spilled into the hallway, and for a moment, the tension felt like it could snap the walls in half. Then, a voice cut through everything. Step away from her. Ethan. He came around the corner, walking toward us with a calmness that didn't match the fire in his eyes. His presence filled the hallway like a storm building pressure. The man in black straightened. Well, he muttered. The prince arrives. Ethan ignored him completely. He went straight to me. Are you okay? He asked. I nodded shakily. He tried to. I know. His tone darkened. He won't get another chance. The man in black clicked his tongue. Bold words for someone who doesn't have the papers. Ethan's gaze sharpened. You mean these? He held up the fake contract folder. You wanted me to sign them so badly. The man smiled thinly. We all have jobs to do. Your job ends now. Ethan looked at his guards. Remove him. For a moment the man didn't move. Then he smirked. This isn't over, Mr. Hale. Ethan stepped closer, eyes cold. It is for you. The security guards moved in, and the man in black finally lifted his hands in a mocking surrender. As they escorted him away, he glanced over his shoulder, right at me. Sweetheart, he called softly. I'll be seeing you soon. I shivered violently, and Ethan immediately put himself in his line of sight, blocking the man's eyes completely. You won't, he said sharply. Ever. Once the man was gone, Ethan turned to me again. His voice was softer now. You're safe. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But the fear inside me didn't vanish. Not after everything that happened. Not after the threats. Not after the darkness. Not after the door rattling under someone else's hand. My voice came out small. Will they come after me again? Ethan hesitated. Then he stepped closer. Not touching me, but standing close enough that his presence felt like a shield. They won't, he said quietly. Because they're going after me now. That terrified me even more. Ethan. He shook his head. No, his voice softened even more. I'll handle it. I promise. He paused, searching my eyes for something he couldn't name. I'm getting you and your mother somewhere safe tonight. After that, I deal with them. Alone. I whispered. He looked away for a moment, jaw tightening. Some battles you have to fight yourself. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. I just followed him as he led me toward the garage exit, toward the outside world, toward the cold air and the flashing lights of security vans. But even with all the protection, all the people, all the backup, I couldn't shake the feeling. This wasn't over. Not even close. The garage doors rolled open, revealing a night sky littered with stars, but nothing about the moment felt peaceful. The security vans were lined up outside, engines running softly, ready for immediate departure. Guards were everywhere, moving quickly, scanning shadows. Ethan guided me to one of the vans. Get in, he said firmly. Sit. Buckle up. Don't move until I tell you. I obeyed instantly, collapsing into the seat, my hands clutching the contract folders to my chest like they were life itself. Ethan stayed just outside the van for a second, scanning the perimeter with his phone flashlight, jaw tight, eyes sharp. One of the guards approached him. Sir, are you coming? Ethan shook his head. No. I need to make sure everyone else is clear first. I wanted to protest, to tell him not to put himself in danger again, but I knew he wouldn't listen. His sense of responsibility overrode everything else. And that's when it hit me. No one else in the world would protect him like I would tonight. Maybe no one could. The van's interior was cold, dimly lit by a single overhead light. I pressed my back against the seat, taking shaky breaths. My mind raced over everything that had happened, the folder swap, the threat, the men in black, the darkness, the power outage, Ethan's fury. A soft click made me jump. One of the guards handed me a phone. "Call your mother," he said. "She's safe now. We'll bring her to a secure location." My hand shook so badly I could barely dial the number. When she finally answered, her voice trembled. "Emma?" "I'm okay," I whispered, tears threatening to spill. "Mom, you're safe." "Yes, baby. We're safe. Thanks to someone." I didn't need to ask who. I already knew. "Ethan." I ended the call, setting the phone aside. The guard beside me gave a reassuring nod. "She's alive. That's what matters." I nodded but couldn't shake the tension. "What happens now?" I whispered. Ethan's voice, calm but firm, came through the van's window as he reappeared outside, flanked by security. "We go to a safe house. Once there, I'll review everything. We'll know exactly who tried to destroy the company and why." The van rolled forward slowly, leaving the mansion behind. Its lights disappeared into the night, swallowed by darkness. I stared out the window, unable to believe how close we had come to disaster. Half an hour later, we arrived at a secluded property on the outskirts of the city. A high wall surrounded the estate, cameras and motion sensors visible along the perimeter. Ethan led me and my mother inside. It was simple, secure, safe, and for the first time that night I felt almost normal. My mother embraced me tightly, whispering, "I'm so proud of you, baby girl." "I didn't do anything alone," I whispered. "Ethan, he did what he had to do," my mother said, pulling back to look at me. "But it's your bravery that kept us alive." I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Maybe I wasn't just the housekeeper's daughter. Maybe in moments like these I mattered more than anyone realized. Ethan stepped into the room quietly, leaning against the doorway. His eyes found mine. For a moment everything else, the threats, the danger, the contracts, fell away. "You're safe now," he said simply. "I'll handle the rest. They won't touch you or your mother again." I nodded, trying to match his calm, but the weight of the night still pressed heavily on my shoulders. We sat in silence for a few minutes. My mother poured tea for all of us, and the steam rising from the cups felt comforting, like a small piece of warmth in a night filled with cold fear. Finally I asked, "What about the company? The men who tried to take it? The contracts?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "My cousin thinks he can steal my legacy. He's wrong. I have the proof now. The real contracts, the swapped folders, everything. And the board? They'll see who the real traitors are." I swallowed hard. "And the men in black? They'll be arrested. Disappeared from the company entirely. My security will make sure of it." The truth hit me slowly. Tonight wasn't just about hiding. It wasn't just about survival. It was about justice. And it felt powerful. I looked at Ethan, suddenly aware of his presence closer than it had been all night. His expression was unreadable, guarded, but there was something behind his eyes I hadn't seen before. Gratitude? Respect? Something more. I should have stayed hidden," I said, suddenly unsure why I even spoke. "I shouldn't have interfered." He shook his head. "You did the right thing. That folder, your observation, that saved the company, Emma. And it saved me from making a terrible mistake." I felt heat rise to my cheeks. I wasn't used to hearing praise like that, especially from someone like him. A billionaire, someone untouchable in every way. "I just couldn't let them hurt my mom," I admitted softly. His gaze softened slightly. "I know." A tense silence followed. Then, unexpectedly, Ethan took a step closer. I froze, not out of fear, but out of recognition that this moment wasn't just about contracts or survival. It was personal. "Emma," he said quietly, I owe you more than I can say. More than words can cover." I swallowed, heart racing. "You don't have to say anything, sir." He chuckled softly, a low, genuine sound, and shook his head. "No, I do. You were brave, clever, strong, and I've never met anyone like you." The words made my chest tighten. I couldn't look away. I didn't want to. "And?" He hesitated, like the words weighed as much as the danger we'd just escaped. "I don't want to lose you. Not now. Not ever." My pulse skipped. Every warning from the night before, every threat, every shadow in the mansion, seemed to fade away, leaving only this moment. I could feel something shift between us, an unspoken acknowledgement that tonight had changed everything. Not just our safety but how we saw each other. How we felt. Before I could respond, a sharp knock at the door startled us. My mother instinctively moved closer to me, protective. Ethan's expression hardened. "Stay here," he said, stepping toward the door. He opened it slowly. 2 of his top security officers stood there. One handed him a small folder. "Digital files from the mansion's security system. They've been cleaned up," the officer said. "Cameras, logs, everything. We've got evidence against every single one of the traitors, including the ones your cousin sent." Ethan's jaw clenched as he took the folder. He didn't look at me. Not yet. He only said, "Tonight isn't just about survival. It's about reclaiming everything." I felt a strange surge of hope and something else. Something dangerous and thrilling. Because tonight had begun with fear, but it was ending with a revelation. That courage could be rewarded and trust, sometimes, could grow into something unshakable. I glanced at him again. He met my eyes this time just for a heartbeat. A silent understanding passed between us. And for the first time that night I allowed myself to believe maybe this was just the beginning. The next morning the safe house felt almost surreal. The sun was barely up, spilling pale light over the manicured garden outside. But inside everything was quiet. Too quiet maybe. Too calm after the storm of last night. I sat at the kitchen table, still holding the contract folders, though the threat of the men in black felt distant now. My mother busied herself with breakfast, humming softly as she moved between the stove and the table. She hadn't asked questions, not yet. She trusted me, but I knew she was bracing for a story that would chill her to the bone. I looked up when Ethan appeared in the doorway. He had changed from the dark, intense man who had stormed through the mansion at night into someone softer, approachable, but no less commanding. He carried a coffee cup in each hand, setting one in front of me. "Thank you," I said, a little stiffly, unsure why my voice trembled. "For what?" His gaze was steady, almost teasing. "For saving my company?" I laughed nervously. "Yeah, that." He sat across from me. "I didn't expect someone like you to notice something that precise. I trusted my own staff to know better." He paused. "But you caught it." I shrugged, pretending to be casual. "I guess paying attention pays off sometimes." He smiled faintly, but there was something behind it. A flicker of admiration, maybe even pride. I didn't know what to say. How could I? He had everything: wealth, influence, power. I had me. And yet, last night we had survived together. He had protected me, but in the process, I'd felt his presence in ways I hadn't before. I'd seen him vulnerable and strong at the same time. My thoughts were interrupted when my mother cleared her throat. She looked at Ethan, assessing him carefully. "You're the one my daughter was talking about, aren't you?" He nodded. "Yes, ma'am. And I promise you she's safe with me." She studied him for a long moment, then finally nodded. "Good. That's all I needed to hear." We ate breakfast quietly. My mind kept drifting to the mansion, to the men in black, to the cousin who had tried to betray him. But mostly it drifted to Ethan. How close he had been last night. How the brief touch of his hand had steadied me. How he had looked at me when he said, "I won't let them hurt you or your mother again." After breakfast, Ethan pulled me aside. "Emma," he said, his tone serious, "today I have to go back. To the office. To the mansion." My stomach dropped. "Already? But isn't it dangerous? I've got security covering everything. And the evidence we gathered last night ensures the board knows who the real traitors are." He hesitated. "I need you and your mother somewhere safe. For a little while longer." I felt a pang of relief and disappointment. Relief that we were still alive. Disappointment because I didn't want him to go. Not yet. He noticed my hesitation. "Emma, you were incredible last night. Braver than most grown adults I know. But I can't stay here with you all the time. Not without putting you in danger again." I bit my lip. "I don't care." No," he interrupted gently but firmly. "You have to understand something. What happened last night, it changes things. But you need to stay safe." I looked down at the folders in my hands. I don't want them to win. I don't want anyone else to get hurt." You already stopped that, he said, placing a hand lightly over mine. His thumb brushed my knuckles. And now we make sure it never happens again. I couldn't look away. My pulse was racing. My chest felt tight. Something was shifting between us. Something I couldn't name but recognized instantly. Something dangerous, thrilling, and utterly irresistible. He stood and I finally looked up. His eyes were fixed on mine, intense, unreadable. Then he stepped closer, just enough that I could feel his warmth. Emma, he said softly, I don't know what happens after today, but I do know this, you're not someone I can forget. Not now. Not ever. My breath caught. I tried to steady myself. Ethan. He took a small step closer, stopping just short of touching me. I know it's complicated. I know the world we live in is messy, but last night, you were fearless, smart, brilliant, and I swallowed hard. And what? And, he said, voice dropping, I can't stop thinking about you. The words hit me like a shockwave. Everything I had been trying to ignore. The pull toward him, the adrenaline, the fear, the exhilaration, exploded into something undeniable. My mother's voice called from the other room. Emma, are you coming? Ethan's gaze lingered on me for a moment longer. I'll be back tonight. And I'll make sure you and your mother are safe until then. But... He hesitated, his expression softening, almost vulnerable. I want to see you again. Soon. After this is over. I nodded, words failing me entirely. He left. The rest of the day was a blur. Security moved my mother and me to another safe house, one even more secluded than the first. We spent hours reviewing what Ethan's team had recovered. The fake contracts, the emails between his cousin and the men in black, proof of tampering, video evidence. Everything was laid bare, everything documented, everything ready for the board. But even as we worked, my mind kept drifting back to him. To the way his eyes softened when he looked at me. To the way his voice carried strength and warmth at the same time. To the way he had placed his hand over mine, grounding me in a world that had just spun violently out of control. By evening, the tension had eased somewhat. The threats had been neutralized, the men in black captured or identified, and Ethan's cousin's influence diminished. But there was a lingering unease. Danger might be over for now, but nothing about our world had been normal for a long time. Then, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan arrived. He didn't announce himself. I heard the soft click of the door, then his voice. Emma. I turned immediately. He was standing there, tall, composed, but his eyes, those dark, intense eyes, were fixed on me. I promised I'd check on you, he said, stepping closer. And I always keep my promises. I felt my chest tighten, nerves firing in every direction. I wanted to step toward him, but I froze. He stopped just a few feet away, hands in his pockets, studying me as though he were trying to read every thought, every fear, every desire. You've changed a lot since last night, he said softly. Not just because of what happened, but you've grown into something extraordinary. And I don't want to let that slip away. Something inside me, a mix of fear, relief, admiration, and something deeper, stirred uncontrollably. My words caught in my throat. He took another small step. Emma, can I trust you? I swallowed hard. Yes. Good. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. Because I want you with me. Not as a liability. Not as a witness. I want you with me. If you'll let me. My heart pounded in my chest. I didn't know how to respond. Everything was happening too fast, but every fiber of my being knew this moment mattered. Knew it could change everything. I took a tentative step toward him. He mirrored it, closing the gap. And then we were standing so close I could feel his warmth, his steady breathing, his presence surrounding me like a shield. Ethan, I whispered. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my face. Emma, he said softly. Tonight, let's forget everything else. Just this. Just us. For a moment. My breath hitched. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to trust him completely. I wanted everything he offered. And in that moment, with danger temporarily behind us, I realized something undeniable. This wasn't just survival. This wasn't just justice. This was the beginning of something neither of us could have anticipated. Something powerful. Something inevitable. And I was ready for it. The night settled over the safe house like a fragile blanket, but it didn't feel fragile anymore. Not with Ethan there. Not with the threat neutralized. Not with the knowledge that, for the first time in days, we weren't running. We stayed up late, talking in hushed voices about everything and nothing. About the mansion, the cousin, the men in black, the contracts. About our lives, our pasts, and slowly about the future. I found myself laughing at small things. Stupid jokes, awkward silences, the way he made serious topics feel less heavy. And for a moment the world felt normal. Then, inevitably, it came back to us. Ethan leaned back in his chair, watching me with an intensity one could feel in my bones. "Emma," he said softly, "I can't stop thinking about last night. About how you stood up, how you saw through the lies, how you saved everything." I swallowed, trying to keep my voice steady. "It was nothing. I saw it. I knew it wasn't right." He shook his head. "It was everything. You were brave, smart, fearless. And I can't tell you how much I admire that. How much I admire you." I felt heat rise to my cheeks. My chest thudded in a way I couldn't control. This wasn't just respect anymore. There was something dangerous in the air. Something thrilling, and I couldn't deny it. "Ethan," I started. He stood suddenly, closing the distance between us. His presence was overwhelming, commanding yet gentle. "Emma," he said, voice low, "I don't want to waste time pretending we're just safe house colleagues. You've changed everything tonight. For me, for everyone. And he paused, searching my eyes. "I can't stop thinking about you. I don't want to stop. Not now. Not ever." I tried to breathe, tried to respond, but words felt useless. Everything I'd been feeling, fear, adrenaline, admiration, longing, all converged into a single undeniable moment. Without warning, he leaned in. Just for a heartbeat, close enough that I could feel his breath. Then he pulled back slightly, his forehead resting against mine. "Emma," he whispered, "if this is crazy, then so be it. But I can't ignore it." I closed my eyes, letting the moment wash over me. "Ethan." Before I could finish, a sharp knock at the door startled us. My mother peeked in, eyes wide. "Emma." "Ethan." "Sorry to interrupt, but there's someone at the gate. They say it's urgent." Ethan's expression darkened immediately. "I'll handle it. Stay inside." I watched him move to the door, every step measured, commanding. When he opened it, my heart sank. Standing there was a man in a dark suit, briefcase in hand, but his eyes, they carried a smug, dangerous confidence. Ethan's gaze sharpened. "You. My cousin." I realized, my stomach knotting. He's here." "Yes," Ethan said, voice low, controlled. "And he's about to learn exactly why he shouldn't have tried to destroy everything I built." The cousin stepped inside without waiting for permission, smirking. "I hear you've been busy," he said smoothly. "Cleaning up my messes, are we? And you, little girl." He glanced at me, disdain dripping from every word. "Still alive, I see. Lucky, aren't you?" I stepped forward instinctively. "Leave," I said, voice steadier than I felt. "You've done enough." Ethan placed a firm hand on my shoulder. "Emma, stay back." The cousin chuckled. Ethan, you always overestimate yourself. You think security, lawyers, your little tricks can save you from me?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "You're done. Tonight. You tried to betray me, my company, my people. And you failed. Every single time." The cousin smirked, calm, unshaken. "Failed? Or underestimated?" Ethan's hand dropped from my shoulder. He stepped closer, standing like a storm waiting to break. "You've underestimated a lot. Me, my staff, and certainly my trust in the people who truly matter." I watched, heart racing, as Ethan's presence filled the room like a hurricane. The cousin's smug expression faltered slightly, just enough for me to notice. "You're finished," Ethan said, voice cold. "Not because I say so, but because you've already lost." My mother moved closer to me, protective. The cousin turned his gaze to her, sneering. "And what is she to you?" Ethan's eyes locked on him. "She's the one who saw the truth. The one who saved everything you tried to steal. And she's not alone anymore." The cousin's expression flickered, the first crack in his composure. You can't." "I can," Ethan interrupted, voice steel. "And I will." He gestured toward his security team, who emerged from the shadows. The cousin realized too late that the odds were not in his favor. Guards moved in to surround him, his confident smirk replaced by alarm. This isn't over," he spat, but there was fear now. The power dynamic had shifted. "It's over," Ethan said quietly. "For you. And anyone else who thought they could betray me." The cousin was escorted out, struggling and yelling threats, but Ethan's team handled it with precision. Once the door closed behind them, silence fell over the house. I exhaled, relief flooding through me. "It's done." Ethan turned to us, his expression softening. "For now. But we'll make sure it stays done." I looked at him, my heart still pounding. Not from fear this time, but from the closeness, the intensity, the realization that Ethan Hale, billionaire and powerful man, had just defended not only his company but my life. And in the process, he had let me see a side of him no one else had. For a long moment we simply looked at each other. The tension of the night giving way to something entirely different. Something personal, something dangerous, something beautiful. Then slowly he stepped toward me. Not in the storm of last night, not in the danger, not in the chaos, but here now where we were safe. "Emma," he said, voice low, deliberate. "There's something I need to say. Not about the company, not about the threats, not about the contracts, but about you. About us." I swallowed, heart in my throat. "Ethan." He took my hand in his, holding it gently. "I know this is sudden. I know the world we live in is complicated. But I can't ignore what I feel. Not for one more second." My pulse thundered in my ears. "Ethan, He closed the gap, tilting his head slightly. "Then don't fight it." And then finally we kissed. Not a fleeting, uncertain kiss, but one that carried everything we hadn't said. Fear, relief, trust, admiration, longing. All of it. And in that kiss I realized. This was the beginning. When we finally pulled away, the room was silent again. My mother smiled knowingly, as if she had expected it all along. Ethan rested his forehead against mine. "You've changed everything tonight," he whispered. I nodded. "And you saved everything. Not just the company, not just lives. But me." He smiled, genuine and soft. "Then let's make sure it stays that way. Together." I felt my heart swell. For the first time in days I felt safe. Truly safe. And more than that, I felt hope. Because tonight we hadn't just survived. We had reclaimed everything. The company. Our lives. And in the quiet moments afterward, perhaps even love. Outside, the stars shone brightly, unblinking witnesses to the night's events. Inside, two hearts, once separated by power and fear, now beat in quiet synchronicity. The storm was over. But this was just beginning. The following morning, the world felt lighter. Sunlight poured into the safe house, bouncing off the cream walls and polished floors, and for the first time in days, the weight of fear felt distant. My mother and I sat at the kitchen table sipping coffee, watching the wind stir the trees outside. Ethan had left early, promising to handle the last pieces of the puzzle at the company. The mansion would soon be his again, fully secured. I tried not to think about the chaos that awaited him there. The board meetings, the investigations, the press. Instead, I focused on the simple fact that we were alive. That he had been real, vulnerable, and unexpectedly tender. "Emma," my mother said suddenly, breaking my reverie, "you've grown so much. I don't think I've ever been prouder." I blushed, looking down at my cup. "I just did what I had to do. Bravery isn't just about doing what you have to do," she said softly. "It's about standing up when the world tries to scare you. And that's exactly what you did." I nodded, feeling a warmth spread through me. There was pride, yes, but also anticipation. Ethan's words from last night played on repeat in my mind. Together. I couldn't help but smile at the thought of him, at the way he had looked at me, at the promise lingering in the space between us. By mid-morning, Ethan returned. He looked different somehow, less like the untouchable billionaire and more like someone I could imagine sharing a life with. His tie was loose, his jacket thrown over a chair, but his eyes still carried that sharp intelligence, that unyielding determination. "Emma," he said quietly, closing the distance between us. "Are you ready?" I followed him without hesitation. My mother watched us go, a knowing smile tugging at her lips. I didn't need words, her expression said it all. The drive to the mansion was quiet, the city sprawling beneath us as the sun climbed higher. Security was tighter than ever. Guards flanked every entrance. Cameras were everywhere. And yet, despite the precautions, a sense of normalcy began to creep back in. Ethan led me directly to his office. The walls were lined with bookshelves, glass cases, and family photos. On his desk lay the contract folders, the ones that had been swapped, now secured, verified, and ready for the board. He turned to me, expression serious. "Emma, I couldn't have done this without you. You've seen the truth, stood up for it, and well, you've changed everything." "I didn't do it alone," I whispered. You gave me the courage to speak." He smiled, that faint, almost shy smile that I had begun to recognize as uniquely his. "Maybe, but it was your eyes that caught the swap. Your voice that stopped it from happening. And your heart." I froze, not sure how to respond. The words were dangerous, vulnerable, and entirely honest. Ethan leaned closer, lowering his voice. "I can't ignore this, Emma. Not now. Not after everything." I took a shaky breath. "Everything meaning?" "Meaning us," he said softly. "This connection we've discovered in the chaos, the danger, the fear. I don't want to lose it. Not to fear. Not to circumstances. Not to anything." The weight of his words made my heart leap. My lips parted, searching for a response. "Ethan." He closed the distance between us, his hand brushing mine, warm and grounding. "I don't need an answer right now," he said. "But know this, I want you in my life. Not just tonight, not just in the safe house. I want you with me. Always." I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. "Always?" I whispered. "Yes," he said, voice firm but tender. "If you'll have me." I didn't hesitate. I reached out, taking his hand fully, and for the first time, allowed myself to feel the depth of relief, gratitude, and something far more electric, love. The board meeting later that afternoon went exactly as Ethan had planned. The falsified contracts were exposed, the men involved in the scheme dismissed or arrested, and his cousin faced legal repercussions that would ensure he never interfered again. Every piece of evidence was airtight. Every ally Ethan had trusted proved loyal. And the company, Ethan's life's work, was safe. From my vantage point in the room, seated beside him, I watched as he commanded the board with a quiet authority. He was brilliant, strategic, and despite everything, human. And he was mine. After the meeting concluded, the atmosphere in the mansion finally relaxed. Ethan and I retreated to his private office, away from the cameras and the staff, to breathe, to talk, to simply be. "Emma," he said, closing the door behind us, "I can't imagine my life without you in it now. And I don't want to." I reached up, brushing a loose strand of hair from his face. "Then stay. Don't leave." "I won't," he promised, voice steady. "Not ever. And I want you to know I mean it." We stood there, hands intertwined, the city lights casting long shadows across the floor. The tension, the danger, the fear from the past days melted into something completely different. Safety, relief, and the beginning of something neither of us had anticipated, but both of us had silently hoped for. In the weeks that followed, life began to return to a semblance of normalcy. The mansion was fully secured. Ethan's cousin was removed from any position of influence. The company's board was loyal and aligned. And somehow, in the midst of rebuilding, we found time for ourselves. Small moments, quiet laughter, lingering glances. The housekeeper's daughter, who had once been overlooked, underestimated, and dismissed, had become something much more. A protector, a confidant, a partner. And the billionaire, who had once been untouchable, had become vulnerable, open, and entirely captivated by her. One evening, as the sun set behind the skyline, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Ethan and I walked through the mansion's garden. The air was warm, fragrant with blooming flowers, and peaceful in a way I hadn't felt in years. He stopped, turning to face me. "Emma," he said, taking both my hands in his. "These past days, they've shown me what truly matters. Not money, not power, not contracts, but people. Trust. Loyalty. And love." I smiled, heart swelling. "You've shown me that too." He leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to my forehead. "Then let's not waste a single day together." And for the first time I believed it. That we could survive anything. That we could face any danger. That we could build something together despite the odds. The mansion, once a place of threats and schemes, became a home. A place of laughter, trust, and love. Ethan and I navigated the challenges of his company, the whispers of the world, and the shadows of past betrayals, but we did it together. Stronger, braver, and united. One quiet night, as we watched the stars from the terrace, I leaned into him, resting my head against his chest. "I never thought life could be like this," I whispered. He held me close, brushing my hair gently. "Neither did I," he admitted. "But sometimes the most unexpected moments, the ones that scare you, that challenge you, they lead to the most extraordinary beginnings." I closed my eyes, heart full, knowing he was right. And in that moment, amidst the quiet of the mansion, the safety of the estate, and the warmth of his embrace, I realized something undeniable. We hadn't just survived. We had conquered fear, exposed the lies, saved a legacy, and discovered a love that neither of us could have anticipated, but both of us desperately needed. "Ethan Hale, billionaire, protector, and now something more," whispered softly against my hair. "This is just the beginning, Emma. Just the beginning." And I knew he was right. Whatever the world threw at us next, we would face it together. The storm was over. The danger was gone. And in its place, something far greater had taken root. Trust, courage, and a love that neither money, power, nor fear could destroy. We had won. And finally, for the first time in a long time, I felt truly, undeniably free.